Hello YouTube friends, welcome back to my channel, and if you happen to be new here, welcome to the Painted South. So in today's video, I want to talk to you about adding texture and character to your home. Now, even though this home was custom built by the previous owners, nothing in the house was custom at all. Everything was very low grade. The carpet was low grade that we ripped out, laminate was low grade. The trim around the doors and windows is very builder basic, just straight out of the box store or builder supply store. So there's nothing in here that's custom. All the light fixtures were just really gross. So there were things like very inexpensive ceiling fans, fluorescent lighting everywhere. Just nothing that says custom or character. Is a very basic, plain, low-cost home on the inside. So that being said, that's kind of a bummer. There's not a lot to work with. There's not a lot of awesome woodwork or trim pieces or paneling or stone or granite. There's nothing really to work with at all. So on one hand, that's really bad. On the other hand, it's a blank canvas. So if there was something like that was in here, say someone remodeled a house, like when we were looking for homes to buy, the homes that people had already remodeled, they remodeled it in a way that we didn't like. So they chose granite and backsplashes and flooring and things like that were not our style anyway. So you don't want to have to buy a house that's been renovated if you don't like the renovations. And so that's what we ran into a lot. So if you're lucky enough to find something that you really like, that's great, and you can just buy that. Or the best thing would be to be able to custom build your own home. And we all know that's very expensive right now, especially this past year with the cost of building materials, very high, and they're still high. I think they're still pretty high. They have come down a little bit, so that's good, but everything's just really expensive. So if you didn't have the time to build a house or couldn't find a builder that could get to it, the next best thing is to buy something that you know that you can tweak and add character to and make it your own. So one of the things that I really disliked about the house were the textured ceilings. Now, I love texture. As I mentioned in one of my last videos, I love texture on walls and ceilings and everywhere, but not this texture. I really disliked it. Some of you may have it, some of you may have popcorn, some of you may have knockdown. There's all kinds of different textures, and as long as you like it, that's all that matters. In this particular house, I just didn't like this texture, so I wanted to change that. So we had gotten quotes from two different companies. One never showed up and the other one would not return my calls. So we pretty much were trying to find somebody else to come out and just scrape the popcorn ceilings and smooth them out. And we couldn't get anybody to do it. So we've ended up scraping I'd say about 50% of the house ourselves. My son helped some when he was here on leave. So we got the living room, kitchen, den, I got the laundry, one hallway, and one bathroom done. So that's all that I'm going to worry about right now. The holidays are coming up, and I really just want to try to get the house somewhat put together so we can move our furniture in. So what I realized is I am not good at making ceilings perfectly smooth. First of all, it kills my neck. I've had to go to the chiropractor. I kind of started in the bathroom in the one hallway out here. I was taking joint compound on a paint roller and just trying to roll it on there and then smooth it out. So I got the hallway and bathroom kind of done, and then I just stopped. And they've just been sitting there for weeks. I tried to get somebody else out to finish things up, just to come out and skim coat them, and that has been a fail. So the other day I was just thinking, and I was like, I may not be the best at getting them perfectly smooth, but I love texture. So I'm just going to add a texture. I've done it on walls before. I love French country, European, old world, even Spanish stucco style. I love all those kinds of textures, and they really add a lot of character to your home if they're done right. And when I say done right, I mean to your liking. What I've ended up doing looks a little bit different in each room because I had gotten the ceiling to a different state. The bathroom was kind of smooth, but still had some texture. And then the hallway I had gotten almost pretty well kind of smooth with a little bit of like roller texture. And then the kitchen and living room and everything, they're still had just been scraped. And I'm going to show you clips on all of this stuff. All right, so what I want to do is show you some clips of the texture, the ceilings before, and then I'm going to show you what I have completed so far and what I'm working on in the kitchen. And then I'm going to tell you what I decided to do in the living room that's totally different. All right, so I want to show you sort of how I am doing this. I hope you can see the texture. The lighting's pretty bad. So this was the old texture that we scraped most of it off, but it still left a lot of sort of a veining. And sometimes you'll try to get down further and then it gets to the paper. So we basically, my son helped do all this when he was home visiting. So we got a lot of the high spots off basically, and then again some places it's almost flat into the paper. So what I'm having to do in the kitchen as opposed to the hallway and the bathroom, I'm having to do a first layer of texture just to try to get some of those little grooves and things filled in. So this is starting to dry. So I will do a first layer like this. Okay, you can see there where it's filling a lot of that in, and I'm leaving a lot of blank areas, and I'm going to come back and do another layer, and that ends up looking like this. So I've got 2 or 3 layers here doing a skip trowel technique. I really love it. I know it doesn't really look that great probably on camera, but I will be doing some touch-ups, maybe a little sanding and so forth, but I think it really gives it a lot of texture and dimension. A lot of people won't like this. They'll think it's dated and so forth, but that's fine. I couldn't get anybody out here to do it smooth. Oh, we have a bag over the light fixture for now. But I couldn't get anybody out here. I got 2 bids. One was $3,000, not including paint, and one was $4,500, and that included painting the ceilings, and I was going to pay it, but neither one of them, the first company didn't show up when they said they were going to, and the second one that I called after they didn't show up would not return my calls, and so that's why I am tackling this project myself. And so it's going to save some money, but you guys, this is going to take me forever. I have to do this entire ceiling. Okay, so I've decided instead of showing you how I'm doing this on the ceiling, it's a little harder to film. I would do a sample board like I was mentioning for you to do. I don't know where I said that in the video, but I just have a scrap piece of drywall, and all I'm using is this green lid all-purpose sheetrock mud. It's joint compound. And I got this one at Lowe's. You can use whatever you want. This is pretty thick. They have some lightweight stuff, some low dust stuff, but since I'm not sanding it, I didn't want to spend the extra money to get the low dust joint compound. So you can use whatever you want. Yeah, this is just what I'm using. Like I said, I got this at Lowe's. I'm sure they sell it at Home Depot or any other hardware store. And then this is a little, it's better if you have like a dipper, but I just had this on hand. I'm just using this to get it out of the bucket, and then I'm putting it in my pan. And I'm just using this. This is about a 10-inch taping blade. So this is what I'm using to apply the texture. So I will take some out of here, I'll put it in my pan, and then I will actually use this to scoop a little bit out and place it on here instead of dipping this into my pan. It allows me to control where I'm putting it. Now, I'm not saying what I'm doing is correct. I'm just saying this is what I'm doing, and I'm going to show you how that looks. So let me put the camera down and we'll get started. All right, so I've taken some joint compound and I've put it in my pan. You can use whatever you have on hand. You can take it right out of the bucket, whatever works for you. So this is just what I had, so this is what I'm doing. So I have some in here. Okay, and then I'm going to take my taping knife. You can use a lot of different sizes or whatever type of tool you want to do to create this, but this is what I'm using. This is what I had. So to kind of control this a little bit, I am taking this and I'm just putting a little bit on here, okay? I want to try to keep it off the other side for now. Let me put a little bit more on there. All right, so this is pretty thick. It's not going to fall off of your knife. Now on the ceiling, I have some rough areas and so forth, so I have to sort of kind of skim coat over the whole thing first. So that's what I'll do here in a small area. So I'll kind of do that, and I know it's hard for you to see, but it'll just kind of fill in the areas on the ceiling that still has texture. And then I'll kind of drag it back over like this and leave the mud on there. You kind of, I don't know the exact angle, and you'll get a feel for this. You just kind of angle it and just lightly drag the mud across your surface, and then you can go back and drag it a little bit very lightly and smooth some of that out, and it starts to give you that texture that you're after. So I'm going to go ahead and work a little area here and try to get a base coat, and then we'll go from there. Okay, so now what I'm doing, now I'm just doing a sample board, so I haven't let this dry. You can let the first layer dry 5, 10, 15, 20 minutes, however long you want, or you can wait till it dries completely, or if you're in a hurry, you can go ahead and apply another layer while it's still wet. It will sometimes pick up the under layer, but you can just work with this stuff. It's very forgiving. If you don't like something and it's still wet, you can just take your blade and smooth it out like that. Get rid of that edge and start over again as long as it's still wet, and you can always add another layer and create your texture this way. So it's very easy to work with and manipulate until you get a look that you like. And what you're going to do is when you drag this across, you're going to use a little bit different angles and pressure to create and leave product on here that you can go back and sort of knock down like that. And it creates all of these different textures and divots and little blank areas and raised areas that create that really nice look that you're after. If you don't want it that textured like here, just smooth it out and you can just have a more subtle texture. And you can go back in and add a little mud. And then just lightly drag it. And it's starting to create that kind of look. Now you can keep working this. It does take a while. It took me probably 2 to 3 layers for the ceiling to get the look that I wanted. And I just kept going back and adding layers. If I didn't like something, like I said, I'd take it off, smooth it out, and just put it right back on there by lightly dragging it. So you can really manipulate this product in so many ways. Now what you'll want to avoid is getting a line edge. A lot of times people do that. They'll do this and they'll press too hard on one side or the other and you'll get a line edge. Sometimes it's hard to avoid, so you just have to keep working with it. Find a tool that works for you. This has been working well for me. It's lightweight. It's the right size for me to work with. It's not too big, too heavy, especially since I'm working overhead. And so this has just been what I've been doing to create this look, and I'll just keep working with it until I have the look that I want. If you get chatter marks like this, you don't want those. So you want to take those out and reapply the product. Smooth it out, maybe add some more. Take it all away. If you do get some line marks that you don't like, you can just go back in later and scrape that top layer off when it's all dry, or you can take some sandpaper and sand out anything that you don't necessarily like or that's kind of sticking out as a little bit of a variation that's too dramatic and doesn't sort of go with everything else. So that's all I'm doing. There's no exact pattern or way to do it. Everyone has their own style. I would tell you that if you start to do the pattern, the project, if you start it, then you finish it. Or you can have someone do the first layer and you do the second layer, vice versa. But if you have 2 people starting on a wall, one person's doing it on one side and one on the other, it's going to look completely different. So I would not recommend doing that. If you're going to split up the work, I would have one person do the first layer, one person do the second layer. That way the technique is the same and you'll get the same look throughout the whole project. And like I said, if you don't want anything quite this varied, you can just knock it down even further. Smooth it out some. If you don't want areas like this where you've put that product back on, just smooth them out. That's all you have to do. Just keep working with the product. If it gets too dry, you can go back over it with another layer. It's very much like paint. You can fix it. You can sand it. You can add, you can take away as long as it's still wet, but once it dries, you're a little more limited. So you can do a little more subdued look by smoothing it out. Sorry, my elbow's in the way. Sorry, I didn't realize my elbow was in the way. So you can smooth this out if you don't like so many small areas. If that's too much, you can just smooth it out more. Now I have done finishes like this on walls before, and I really like the look of it. It adds a lot, especially when you add paint and glaze. All of these creases and crevices and everything really come to life. So you can just keep working with it until you get the look that you want. And so, as you can see on the ceiling, I have done a lot more layers and I've gotten a lot of texture. And I really like it. And like I said, that's going to subdue a little bit when I add the primer and the paint. You can just put a little bit more and just lightly drag it and leave that product on your wall or your ceiling. All right. So you've created a lot more texture. You can wait for that to dry a little bit and then knock it down, or you can go ahead and just turn your blade pretty flat and just kind of drag it across. So as you can see, applying this texture is very hard on your neck and your shoulders, all in through here. It's just really been killing me. So I can only do small sections at a time before my neck is cramping up and I have to like take a muscle relaxer or some ibuprofen and just let it relax. That's just me. I know maybe 20 years ago, I probably could have done the whole house, no problem, in a couple of days, but I'm not working with that kind of energy or mobility at the moment. So I'm doing it in small sections and that's fine for me. However, what I have decided is that I only want to do this texture in the kitchen, and then in the living room, I want to do something different. And I want to use a product that we used in our last house on a couple of projects. We used this paneling on as a temporary backsplash in the house. We also used this very same product on our island when we did a transformation, and I never got to do a video on that transformation, but I'm going to show you some clips of sort of the progression of how we transformed that from the cabinets that were there and transformed it into a custom looking island with a custom finish. So for now, that's the plan. I'm going to finish this texture technique on the kitchen ceilings. In the living room, I'm going to do a tongue and groove wood planking. I'm not sure if I'm going to do a light stain or a whitewash. I'm just going to have to see. I'll probably do a couple of sample boards and put those with the flooring and see what looks the best. And then in the den, I'm trying to think of another idea. It's a much smaller room and it's right near the laundry room. So I'm still debating what to do in that room on the ceiling. I have a few ideas, so I will share those with you when I get to that point. But for now, that's all I have for this video. Like I said, I just wanted to share with you what I was doing on the ceilings and where we're going to go with this look. I love European, French country, old world stuff. I I actually like so many different styles. I don't know if you guys are like that. Please let me know in the comments below. I like too many different styles, and I like elements of each style. And so it's sometimes hard to pick things because I'll just see items that I like, or pieces that I like, or materials that I like. And I don't really like to be put in a box. I know a lot of people, like, they'll say, I mean, if your style is 100% farmhouse, then it's farmhouse, or 100% modern, then it's modern. But I think a lot of us like to mix and match, and we just like kind of different pieces and different styles, different materials all mixed together. And so that's kind of where I am. I'm trying to make it cohesive. I always try to make everything blend together. And just have really an interesting look. But one of the main things that I'm trying to do in this house is to just do what we love. I'm trying not to worry about what anybody else thinks necessarily. I just want to do things that we really like and just kind of go for it. You know, there's always the thought of having to resell a house, but if you live in a house and you always have resale in mind, sometimes that can just really kind of put a damper on what you would like to do. And every once in a while, I think it's just good to let your creative juices flow and do what you want. You know, someone's going to come in and change it anyway. Even if you do what you think is in style and what would be great for resale, somebody out there's not going to like it. So I don't know, in this house, we've been through so much already. My goal is to just add character. And I think a lot of it's not going to make any sense until we're all done and everything's in the house and it's all cohesive with the fabrics and materials and colors. And especially when I refinish these cabinets, you guys, paint can do so much, and I am so excited to paint these cabinets. They are the ugliest laminate, and I'm going to paint them to kind of last us for a few years at least, because I don't know when we're going to want to rip the kitchen apart, or when we're going to want to spend all of that money and do a total kitchen remodel. It may be 1 year, it may be 3 years, it could be 5 or 10 years. So I definitely want to repaint the cabinets and have them look decent so that we can enjoy the kitchen for a while without feeling like we really need to do the renovation, if that makes sense. Another thing I wanted to mention is if you have popcorn ceilings and you are interested in scraping them off or removing them or even going over them, you need to have them tested for asbestos. This product was sold, I think, through the 70s and even into the 80s and 90s. Some of that product was still circulating and being sold and used. So the best thing to do is, if you have a house that was built prior to modern times, you need to have it tested to see if there's any asbestos in it. One telltale sign, I believe, is if it has a little bit of glitter, shimmery kind of look in it. It's probably asbestos, but do your research. I'm not an expert on that, but it's best if it's undisturbed. They do sell tracks that you can put up and do paneling right over it, so you don't have to disturb it. But again, the best thing to do is to have it tested and take care of that before you start scraping. You don't want to breathe any of that in. Now, another thought I have for you that I thought I would share is if you're doing a texture, you don't want it to look cartoonish. And by that, I mean, you don't want it to look like you created this texture that should be on a display in a haunted house, where it is obviously a fake stone, where it's obviously a faux brick or something. I mean, you want it to kind of look authentic in some way. If you're happy with that, whatever look you're doing, as long as you're happy with it, that's all that matters. But I would say just try to make it look a little more authentic than more cartoonish, or I would say theatrical, something that you would see on a set, if that makes sense. Now, in contrast, in saying that, you do want to have fun and be creative. So don't limit yourself to what you think everyone else is going to tell you it should look like me, for example. Look at samples that you like online and try to mimic that. If you're not sure which way to go, watch YouTube videos. There are a ton online showing you how to apply the skip trail texture, and what I've showed you that may work for you too. Whatever it is you decide to do, you want to commit to that look. Remember not to look at just the one small area that you're doing. you may say, oh, this doesn't look right or whatever. Keep the whole room in mind. Keep in mind everything else you're going to do in the room, all the fabrics, all the finishes and the woods you're going to bring in and so forth. It'll all come together in the end. So once you commit to something, try to see it through don't stop before you finish. If you have an idea that you love, work through it, finish it, and see how it looks in the end. And if you don't like it, then try something else. So an example of that would be if you're doing your makeup, if all you did was put on your foundation and powder and you never finished putting on the rest of your makeup, it wouldn't look right. You've got to keep the end look in mind. You can't just apply the foundation and be like, oh, that's not going to look right. It's a whole process. There's lots of layers. There's lots of elements that you need to add. So I'm keeping that in mind for myself, that I'm applying this texture to the ceiling, but I'm keeping in mind what it's going to look like when I'm done, all the cabinets and the floors are in and so forth, because right now it doesn't look the best, if I'm being honest. So keep in mind the end result. If any of you were wondering how she's doing great. She has put on so much weight. She's got her fat tummy back, and we're just so happy that she's home and she's healthy. And she was nagging me at the door till I let her in, so I have to finish filming this with her on my lap as usual. So all that being said, I hope you enjoyed this video. I hope you liked seeing how I am applying this texture. I'm really excited to share the progress with you. Now, the next video that I'm gonna have is probably going to be another haul. I know I need to stop shopping and I need to get to work and stop buying things, but if I stop somewhere and I pick up a couple of things, I kind of stash it on the side, and then I like to share it with you just to show you what I've been finding. And I did find a couple of things the last time I was out. A couple of things from Walmart and another thrift store, actually the same thrift store I went to last time. You guys aren't going to believe what I found, or what the lady found for me, actually. So I can't wait to share that with you. So I will see you in the next video. Please consider subscribing if you haven't already, and hit that like button if you did enjoy this video. And if you like it enough, share it with a friend. Maybe they want to add some character or texture to their home, their ceilings, their walls, maybe an accent wall. So anyway, if you enjoyed it, share it with your friends, family, and I will see you guys in the next video. Bye for now.